Welcome back, one and all, as we close out another week here at The Damage Report with me, John Iadarola, and the host of the Happy Half Hour, the happiest half hour, really. I checked, none exceed it, Brett Erlich. How's it going?
Many people have talked about their hours being happy, but our hour is our finest hour, and our hour of happiness is the happiest.
So analyzing, I think that makes sense. It is a very happy hour though. So anyway, glad to have you here. Are we going to be seeing you delve not into a happy hour, but a gaming hour? Is that
no game busters? No game busters this week. I'm sorry. Jorbin's out of town. And also, it's Good Friday, idiots. You should be celebrating, checks notes, the death of your savior.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you celebrate it? Also,
you're the ones who call it good.
We maintain a strict separation of church and TDR. So everybody celebrate or don't celebrate. It's all good, baby. I don't know. Anyway, I'm more uncomfortable than I generally am at the beginning of shows, but we have a big old show. Not only are we gonna be diving almost immediately into what in the authoritarian hell is going on in Tennessee, which we will, but Clarence Thomas finally responds to ProPublica's amazing investigation of his, I'm gonna say, historic level of corruption that he's engaged in, at least in reference to the Supreme Court. We've got Joe Biden going back on another campaign promise while trying to hide it as a good thing, but we'll dive into that and we'll see what we can figure out. And we were a little bit worried about death threats potentially coming to the judge in Donald Trump's hush money case, and yeah, it didn't take long. So we're gonna be analyzing that a little bit too. And then in the aftermath, not only are we gonna be taking stock of Elon Musk threatened all of the blue checks that they were gonna lose unless they signed up for his you give the richest man in the world $8 a month thing. And we're gonna be evaluating how successful that threat was, that little ultimatum. And we've got fake fury. But then garbage people of the week. And I particularly like my garbage people. Garbage person, I should say, this week. With all that said, if you would like to send us any comments, tweets, super chats, all that, either to make a point, ask a question, get a laugh, maybe get a $100 Blue Apron gift card, you can do that, and Brett and I will respond as we go. We're also gonna be doing an impromptu art show in our first social break, because we had an amazing fan who did some just incredible posters of different members of the extended TYT family. So we're gonna be showing those off. But with all that said, Brett, are you ready to do this thing?
Let's get into it, everybody. Let's get nasty.
Yeah, normally when I ask that, it's like a formality. It's just sort of one of our rituals or whatever. But in this case, it is just the worst sort of news. It's a big old story. So I did want to make sure. But since you've given your consent, let's jump into this.
To expel voices of opposition and dissent is a signal of authoritarianism, and it is very dangerous. And I hope that as the nation watches, that we put this light on Tennessee to say that this should sound the alarm across the nation that we're entering into very dangerous territory.
That is Tennessee State Senator Justin Jones, or I guess I should say now former state legislator, since the Tennessee House did successfully vote to expel Justin Jones, Justin Pearson as well, for the crime of having participated in a protest. I mean, that's the cover story. At least I think everyone in America knows exactly why they did what they did, whether they oppose or support the move. What the Republicans did is what they're doing all over the country in 1,000 different forms. They have realized that they cannot win elections, they cannot gain nor hold power legitimately, and so they're using whatever means they have to contradict the will of the people, to make elections irrelevant since they've become unwinnable. Though that gentleman that you just saw, and you're going to see Justin Pearson as well, won elections. The Republicans do not think that they can beat them, so they just removed them. And we're gonna be jumping into that. There was also, by the way, of course, Representative Gloria Johnson. They tried to kick her out as well. They failed by 1 vote in that case, and we will be jumping into that as well. I guess minimal credit to the 7 Republicans who did not participate in this authoritarian power grab in Tennessee. But to give you an idea of how insane it is that they did these expulsions, take a look at former Representative Justin Pearson explaining what doesn't normally get you expelled.
If you look at what it takes to expel a member, or what it should take, most of the times that a member in the Tennessee state legislature have gotten expelled, in the last 2 times in particular, one, the guy committed sexual assault against 22 people. The other committed bribery. We broke a house rule because we're fighting for kids who are dying from gun violence and people in our communities who want to see an end to the proliferation of weaponry in our communities, and that leads to our expulsion. This is not democracy. It is no coincidence that the 2 youngest black lawmakers in the state of Tennessee and 1 or 2 women are on trial today. That is not accidental. This is what happens when you lose democracy.
I think he's 100% right. I think everyone understands exactly why him and Justin Jones were knocked out. We're going to get into more of that. But also, for historic context, before this week, the most recent expulsion was in 1866, when 6 House members were expelled for trying to stop Tennessee from ratifying the 14th Amendment, which established citizenship for people who had been enslaved. So interesting that like 150 years can go by, but still racism is at the core of all of this. Brett, what do you think?
So it's kind of his fault for fighting for children. Is what it sounds like. That sounds like the logic is that he was too upset that children were killed. Now you look at the Republican Party's makeup, and usually they get mad about that in name only. They're mad when pre-children, like as soon as you fertilize an egg, if you do anything to that, you're the devil. But once those kids, according to Republican logic, if I'm following it correctly, once those kids are out there, they're kind of similar to the animals in Big Game Hunter, which is a really fun game to play when you're no longer drinking Bud Light at bars. You shoot at the animals and it's very fun. That the Republicans, it seems by how they're behaving, that's what children are for. Unless they're like trying to go to a swim meet, in which case you need to inspect their genitals. It's very difficult for me to really follow the logic of the Republican Party here, but that seems to be the roadmap for their overall party platform. And it seems to work. I mean, it works so well in Tennessee that even though Trump got 60% of the vote in 2020, the legislature is 78% Republicans. So that's it. So if you're looking for logic, the math is weird because they're probably using Common Core Devil's logic and Devil's math. And if you speak up about this in any way about how illogical the Republicans are being, they won't listen to you because they are no longer the party of ideas. Well, they're the party of their ideas, but they will just eliminate you from the House for using not the microphone to speak, but a different microphone, a bullhorn, which is just a microphone with the speaker in it. The rules are very complicated, but you don't understand. I think that the takeaway is you guys just don't understand.
Yeah, well, then I'll have to join them because I don't understand how we've gotten to this place as a culture without more pushback against these moves. Not to say that there's not any. The people of Tennessee have been amazing in the original protests that spurred this, their reaction throughout this week to what happened. I would also like to welcome the national media to knowing about this story in the last possible moment, not days before, when if a national uproar had been raised, maybe there would have been a different result. But in any event, now they're talking about it, so that's good. So I want to move now to go back to Justin Jones talking about the sort of people that are still allowed to serve in the Tennessee legislature. Take a look at this.
For years, one of your colleagues who was an admitted child molester sat in this chamber, no expulsion. One member sits in this chamber who was found guilty of domestic violence, no expulsion. We had a member pee in another member's chair in this chamber, no expulsion. In fact, they're in leadership. What you're saying to us, since you're trying to put us on trial, I'll say what you're really putting on trial is the state of Tennessee. What you're really showing for the world is holding up a mirror to a state that is going back to some dark roots.
Yep, and look, there's obviously a lot of places in America that have some really, really dark roots that you don't have to go that far back to find. But Tennessee is definitely historically one of those places. This is completely unacceptable to a modern audience that likes democracy. But in the context of Tennessee, I mean, I feel like this fits in pretty well with some of how their politics has gone over the last couple of centuries. I would add to it, I understand it's Congress versus state legislature, but like George Santos is still a congressman. He will be until he's eventually beaten in a primary. When Marjorie Greene was outed as like liking posts about a bullet in Nancy Pelosi's head and all of that, they were censured, still serving. They're still in Congress. They spoke through a bullhorn, and so they have to be out. I don't know. Look, I am hoping that there will be a big reaction. At the end of this block, we're gonna be talking a little bit about where we go from here, but I mean, the Republicans think that they nailed this thing, and I hope that it's eventually proven that they were wrong.
Can we go back to the guy who peed in someone else's chair? How is that?
Yeah, I would like more details on that.
Like that's along the lines of bullhorn. Like if you're kicking people out for bullhorn in decorum, as they say, in the House of Rep, or in the Tennessee state legislature, I think the P thing, I think that would be there. I think that would be in line. But if you're so ideally, what they would do is they say, well, they're trying to go behind this argument that it's all about procedure and decorum rules. This is not a partisan situation. This doesn't have to do with the fact that you guys are advocating to keep children safe by passing common sense gun legislation that is itself wildly popular. Talk about triggered. They're triggered not by the murders of children, but by the idea that everyone's pointing out the obvious. The obvious, which is, yeah, we should probably make it harder for folks to get a gun and go kill kids like this. Period. Yeah. And it's a great opportunity because it was a trans person who did it. You'd think the Republicans would be, up in arms, so to speak, over that. Nope, still nothing because that gun lobby money is so damn sweet.
Yeah, it's just weird to be in a position where the only takeaway I can come to, I guess, is if Justin Jones and Justin Pearson had walked onto the legislature floor with bullhorns and had pulled down their pants and peed into the bullhorns, they'd still be representatives. But because they spoke through them, they are not. And the Republicans are the ones who venerate free speech. They don't like canceling people for what they say or do. What a ridiculous fiction.
Just to make a point, I don't want to blow anyone's mind here, but if we can go to graphic 10. This is a bust of Nathan Bedford Forrest. I think Nathan Bedford Forrest. This is and if we go on to more information about Forrest's notoriety only increased when in 1867 he became the first Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan, a secret hate organization that employed terror of pursuit in its white supremacist agenda. Why am I bringing up Nathan Bedford Forrest bust? Because those legislators would have had to walk past it in the Nashville state capitol on their way to go make a statement about gun violence in America.
It's amazing.
Until when? How long was this in the state house? The first Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan? It was removed, according to this headline, in 2021. Bust of the Klan leader is removed from Tennessee. It was in the Nashville state capitol house, where they would walk by. If anyone is denying the legacy of racism in the Tennessee state legislature, that legacy was literally on full display in a 2.5-foot bust on a platform that was self 2.5 feet, a 5-foot tall statue of the Grand Wizard of the KKK. So your idea of, this is just a decorum ground rules violation here? No. 100% provable that only with our pressure that you should probably get rid of the Grand Wizard of the KKK. Finally, there's the ocular proof of racism has been removed from the state house.
Maybe they just want to make sure that everybody remembers that Tennessee is where the KKK began. They don't want anyone to learn from that. They just maybe want to remind them of it. Maybe it's a point of pride, I don't know. It certainly acts like that's what they think. If the bust sticks around until, I'm gonna say after the launch of the 3rd season of Stranger Things, I kind of feel like you probably could have gotten rid of it a couple of years earlier. In any event, I want to jump down or move on to another angle on this, because of course the goal had been 3 representatives removed. They didn't get that. So here we're gonna jump into, hold on a second, I think we're gonna jump into Gloria Jones being asked about that.
Why were those 2 expelled and you weren't?
Well, I think it's pretty clear I'm a 60-year-old white woman and they are 2 young black men. In listening to the questions and the way they were questioned and the way they were talked to, I was talked down to as a woman, mansplained to, but it was completely different from the questioning that they got.
Context of Tennessee, I think a lot of people understand why the GOP might be more eager to take out the non-60-year-old white women in the equation. But the state speaker, Cameron Sexton, he does not like this sort of narrative. So here is his explanation for why there was a different outcome for her.
I mean, that's a false narrative on her part. She had 2 attorneys in the well, and if you go back and look at the opening, her attorney, John Mark Wendell, came out strong, made a lot of points that she was not as active a participant as the other 2. She didn't grab the bullhorn. She didn't scream and yell. She didn't lead the protest.
Oh, she didn't talk through the bullhorn. Well, that is a big difference, I guess, to them. If you're coming up with a cover story, I guess that's your out. Her voice was a little bit less loud, I suppose. Bear in mind, this is a guy who earlier this week says that 2 of the members, Representative Jones and Representative Johnson, have been very vocal about January 6th in Washington, D.C. about what that was. What they did today was equivalent, at least equivalent, maybe worse, depending on how you look at it, to doing an insurrection in the state capitol. So he jumped right past this is an insurrection in the state capitol and said this is worse than an insurrection in the state capitol, because some representatives, some activists, some young people were being loud and a little unruly about the fact that yet more kids were needlessly gunned down and nothing was clearly going to be done about it. And I have heard a ton of attempts to both sides insurrection now. Even Fox and Friends is like, well, this is just the only thing we should take away from them losing their positions is don't storm capitals. And they're consistent because they were really hard on the January 6 people. I will remind you that in this case, no demonstrators broke into the Capitol, no one was arrested or injured, no property was damaged. But the legislative business was briefly halted as a result of the people talking through bullhorns. So it was exactly like January 6th, except for all of the things bad about January 6th. What do you think,
right.
Brett?
Sticks and stones might break your bones, but words might get you thrown out of the state legislature, says the party of free speech.
Yeah. We've given you our reactions. What?
No, that's it. No, go for it. That's it.
Obviously, there have been a lot of strong reactions to the Tennessee legislature deciding that since they figured out that they can kick out Democrats for no reason whatsoever, they're just going to start doing it. So we have President Joe Biden saying today's expulsion of lawmakers who engaged in peaceful protest is shocking, undemocratic, and without precedent. Rather than debating the merits of the issue, these Republican lawmakers have chosen to punish, silence, and expel duly elected representatives of the people of Tennessee. That is exactly what they did. Maybe there's something more that you could do than just comment on it. I don't know. I would love to see something. Why doesn't Biden go to Tennessee? Why don't Democratic leaders go and camp out in Tennessee? It is, after all, the beginning of a presidential election. Maybe reminding people that the Republican Party long ago turned against democracy, also is viciously targeting people of color for political annihilation. Maybe those wouldn't be a bad thing to remind people of. But Barack Obama also tweeted, "This nation was built on peaceful protests. No elected official should lose their job simply for raising their voice, especially when they're doing it on behalf of our children." I agree. And AOC said Republicans may think they won today in Tennessee, but their fascism is only further radicalizing and awakening an earthquake of young people, both in the South and across the nation. If you thought youth organizing was strong, just wait for what's coming. Gen Z don't play. Yeah, remember, the entire thing started, not entirely, but largely based off of young activists not willing to accept the status quo on needless daily massacres. We know more than 70% of young voters voted for a Democrat in the last election. What does the Republican Party think they're doing with all of these moves? They think that this is helping them long term? Then not only did they, it's easy to point out, of course, that the two representatives that were eliminated were people of color. They were also incredibly young. It's amazing that they were in those positions to begin with. So you're telling young people that if they overcome all of the amazing hurdles to entering government, then old angry fascists will just kick them out. I don't know, maybe that's a win for the Republican Party long term. Doesn't seem like it to me. What do you think?
I think it's absolutely fascinating. It's thoroughly fantastic. That like, I mean, maybe you're just maybe I'm reading it wrong. Maybe instead of a bullhorn, they brought a bull into the Capitol. Is all I could think of, like an actual bull with horns trying to hurt people. It's wildly disproportionate to the things that they were doing, and also all these comparisons to like January 6th. It's, yeah, as you point out, it's like a very weird contortion of selective memory to try to make comparisons. One is like it was not part of the procedure they were trying to stop was one of democracy, and it was based on utter falsehoods and lies. Meanwhile, like you can name the dead people that were slain. Like that, those are real things that happen. And I think this should be amplified. Like what they did is they took a bullhorn to what they're actually doing. If no one spoke up about this, if the Tennessee state legislature was like, all right, fine, they're supposed to play by the normal playbook. Don't they understand? Didn't they get it? As someone who I'm still trying to get these Republican, I'm trying to act as a Republican consultant and come to me for advice if you want any. But the playbook is you're supposed to say thoughts and prayers after a killing, and then you're supposed to just wait. And you're supposed to do nothing. You're not supposed to kick people out of the legislature, because all that does, as AOC point out, is embolden more people to point out how horrible you're being. Yeah. And it's this weird flex, this weird Republican flex that think they can get away with it. And it's actually incumbent upon us to go buy more bullhorns and spotlights and make this so that everybody knows what they're doing and how. Now, the headwind that we face is that the gerrymandered districts have made it so that those levers of power are so entrenched, and because no matter how much you vote, it's very hard to change the makeup of the state legislature. That's why you need to get involved in organizations that actually try to put nonpartisan, anti-gerrymandered rules in place so that state legislatures don't look like Tennessee's does, where they have a much larger proportion of representation in the House of Republicans than they do a proportion of the popular vote.
Yeah, 100%. Looking forward really fast, we're gonna close on this. The Tennessee Democratic Party has already begun fundraising to support the two expelled members in special elections. And according to the Tennessee state constitution, they cannot be expelled a second time for the same reason. So that is going to be mildly inconvenient to the Republicans. They're gonna have to come up with another absolutely transparent cover story for why they're taking out these representatives. If you would like to support these efforts, Chris Murphy had tweeted out an Act Blue link where you can donate to the re-election efforts for the two representatives, and obviously the two representatives as well. Justin Pearson had tweeted it out. So that is available. I would love to see them get all of the money and more that they need to crush their opponents in the special election. And then when they get back in, to be like twice as emboldened, twice as aggressive in representing their constituents. I think like we can debate like the wider political significance of all this, the effects of it. But I think the takeaway is that many people on the national stage have now been exposed to two awesome young leaders who are amazing public speakers, great at representing their passionate supporters. They're now, by the way, on social media 1,000 times more significant than they were. The Republican Party has likely created two future national leaders, but stay tuned to find out. With that said, we're gonna take our first break. We come back. Clarence Thomas responds to the amazing corruption journalism that was done this week by ProPublica. We'll give you the results after this. Okay, everybody, we've got the social break. I am going to be reading some of your comments, but first, we have a special feature. You might remember, I feel like it was months ago, I showed off some of the amazing posters, the profiles of different people in the TYT family that our amazing, talented artist, a viewer, Seth, had sent in, did work for 9 months on them. But it turns out that he didn't see it initially. And the amount of work, the amount of creativity definitely deserves more recognition. So while many of the posters have since been brought home by the people they featured because people wanted to put them up in their own homes, there were still a few here, especially from people who couldn't get them because they live in other parts of the country. So I do want to show them off. First, you can see Emma Vigeland being profiled here, capturing her fire, her spark. How awesome. I'm gonna leave my personal favorite to last, but Fran Fio, looking quite sassy there. Love it. And then, of course, I appreciate this one, not only for the art, not only for the dragon tail, not only for the fire, but because he left off Daddy. Thank you, Seth, for that particular creative choice.
And I have one here in the house, but I'm sitting down. And I can't get it, but it's awesome. It's basically me, and behind me is like a nuclear explosion. Just really, and then my eyes are very pretty in it, like still like a very masculine affect, but like very pretty eyes. And
well, he captured your actual pretty eyes, so that was great. No, someone in the chat was like, no, Anna. Oh no, there were far more. Anna has taken hers home. I believe JR took his home. There were a bunch of, it's an amazing amount of work. And by the way, professionally printed on like super heavy duty like canvas to be like professionally mounted. So great work by Seth, just like tireless work over a number of months to sort of immortalize us in that way. So I very much do appreciate that. People do send in their creative works on a regular basis, and we try to always give people recognition, but I'm always terrified when I do it that they won't see it. Like we just showed off, I don't know if you can catch in this shot, but we have this amazing 3D printed articulated dragon that we showed off on the pre-show yesterday. So anyway, whenever a member of the audience sends something in, like we always appreciate it. So thank you for giving us your creativity and your time. Okay, with that said, why don't we jump into what's going on out there in the audience? Let's start off with some, gifting going on. Non-Human Humanist gifted a Damage Report membership. Thank you so much for that. T Underhill's been a member for 27 months. Says, Brett, when are you taking John to Japan? Well, we talked about it this last time, but I didn't end up being able to go. But Brett goes to Japan about 6 times a year. So I think there are gonna be more opportunities.
It's the best. Everybody should go. Jorby's going in a little bit, I think.
Oh, is he? Oh, that's awesome. The Synchronosis Dragon, member for 27 months, says Kid Rock needs to hold an action figure so he can show us where the trans beer touched him. That's pretty good. That's pretty funny. You know how funny that is? That's Blue Apron gift card funny. The Synchronosis Dragon, assuming you haven't already gotten one, you just got a Blue Apron gift card right off the bat. Send an email to rewards@tyt.com and send your first and last name as well as your handle, and they'll set you up there. Some people were asking why Seth had profiled Emma. Wait, the people don't remember that Emma was at TYT for years. Oh no, come on. I know people are new, but like Emma was an awesome part of TYT. Still in the extended family, still buds. We'll be right back. Okay, everybody, lots of news to get to. Why don't we jump directly into this?
It seems like a real run up by the media to push for either more members of the court, more court packing, or just changing the subject from the absolutely desperate shape the US economy is in and the desperately bad numbers for Joe Biden. This is total bull, okay? And I put this in the same category as Alvin Bragg's indictment against President Trump.
As Laura Ingram's incredibly low energy attempt to distract people from the amazing work that ProPublica did in profiling literally decades of massive, some total millions of dollars of gifts and trips that Harlan Crow, real name, gave to Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. It is bribery on a level that I hope we've never seen before. I hope never's happened before. But to her, she puts all of this on the same level as the Alvin Bragg thing. I don't doubt that she does. It's something that she doesn't want the audience to take seriously, but that they would definitely take seriously if it was someone other than Clarence Thomas or Donald Trump who were implicated in them. If this was, as many have noted, if Sonia Sotomayor had been like taking a trip through the Caribbean on the George Soros Carnival or something, I think Laura Ingraham would have an issue with it. I think that if Joe Biden had been paying hush money payments from his affair with a adult film star, I think maybe Laura Ingraham would be interested in the legal process that resulted from that. But of course, when it's their own guys, they don't care. Brett, what do you make of it?
I'd like to report a missing person, and I think we should go check on him. He's a cute little baby boy. His name's Tucker Carlson. Where's Tucker? If you watch Tucker Carlson on a daily basis, this has all the trappings of something he would hate. Elites in Washington, behind the scenes, telling you that they're just for the people, when really they're literally on a yacht somewhere, glad handing each other under the robe. Where's Tucker Carlson? I hope he's okay. Is he alive? Somebody check on him.
Honestly, the amazing thing is that Laura Ingraham mentioned it at all. I guess that's progress. I guess that's how you know it's a story that rises to a certain level, that they don't just ignore it. Like the Five, I think they made a verbal reference to it and then went on to the Little Mermaid. It's one of the most amazing stories of corruption on the Supreme Court. It's literally taking super yacht trips with one of the wealthiest people in the country.
Yahtzee.
It's a yacht that births other yachts as it travels around the world. And the Populist News Network doesn't think it's a big issue. Decades of hidden gifts and trips. Look, I understand.
The only more ironic trafficking of sacred artifacts than giving Clarence Thomas the Bible that once belonged to Frederick Douglass. Those kinds of strange, horrible ironies are usually reserved for Indiana Jones movies. When the Nazis looking around for the Ark of the Covenant that the Jews used, is Clarence Thomas and these utter right-wing psychos saying like, here's a touching piece of equal rights history.
Also a bust of Abraham Lincoln. Don't forget that.
Woke ass Abraham Lincoln.
Exactly.
I don't know. I just watched a Matt Walsh video that told me that slavery was fun. So I feel like all these wokies on the right or on the left are trying to get saying it belongs in a museum.
It does belong in a museum. By the way, fun little note. Clarence Thomas ruled on a massive bribery case while accepting those vacations. Now, to be fair, back in 2016, it was a unanimous decision, which either means that maybe it wasn't a big deal, or maybe all of them are accepting gifts like this. ProPublica, get on that, please. But anyway, we also find out that same GOP billionaire, Harlan Crow, again, how is that not a villain in like a 1950s murder mystery? Anyway, didn't just fund Clarence Thomas's vacations and his wife's political PAC. He also gave thousands of dollars to Kirsten Sinema and Joe Manchin. What a small world when it comes to corruption. Oh, by the way, also Henry Cuellar, how fun. Also, we found out that ProPublica was not actually the first outlet to investigate these gifts. The LA Times did 20 years ago. And do you know what's interesting about that? It was immediately after that reporting 2 decades ago that Clarence Thomas stopped reporting the gifts. And I want you to bear that in mind as we turn to his response to this entire thing, because Clarence Thomas has now responded to ProPublica's corruption research into him, a profile of these millions of dollars of gifts and trips he was given. And here's what he had to say. He said that Crow and his wife, Kathy Crow, man, that's something, are dearest friends who they've joined on family trips. Early in my tenure at the court, I sought guidance from my colleagues and others in the judiciary and was advised that this sort of personal hospitality from close personal friends who did not have business before the court, which he very much does constantly, by the way, was not reportable. I have endeavored to follow that counsel throughout my tenure and have always sought to comply with the disclosure guidelines. He has not been complying with them, by the way. So maybe he tried and failed, but he didn't do it. He noted that he would now comply with changes made to disclosure rules that were announced last month. Would he if the reporting had not come out? But anyway, his cover story is, hey, during my early years, I talked to other people and they said this is totally cool, which is an interesting story, not a true story. Because apparently he did disclose gifts and trips for, I'm gonna say 14 years or so. I don't know how you define early years, but it was only in the early 2000s when the LA Times profiled some of the gifts and trips he'd been given that he stopped complying with it. So that story was obvious BS. It's also verifiable BS because it doesn't actually match the historic record. Right, what do you think?
You skipped my favorite quote, which is the Crow himself saying, I just knew he was a fan of Frederick Douglass and I saw that item come available at an auction and I bought it for him. This is the same argument as if you said, I heard he liked money, so I gave him money. That's what a bribery is. You give them things they want to develop. Here's a thing of value. And how do I know it has value? I know how much you bought it for and you gave it to him. And you are getting closer and closer to him. This is how the corruption works. It is the banality of evil. But these are just people who hang out. And it just confirms everyone's worst fears that there's this glad handing. And what they don't understand is that they should have a different worst fear, which is that partisanship dictates the selective outrage.
Yeah, this would have been my garbage person, except it broke too late for me to have the graphic made. So all that we know from the ProPublica thing about Clarence Thomas, I wish I could show this to you because this is a tweet from CNN Politics that I saw before we went live. Judge Juan Marchand, the judge overseeing Donald Trump's criminal case in New York, donated $35 in political contributions to Democrats in 2020, including a $15 contribution to the campaign of Trump's opponent, President Joe Biden. That's the whole tweet, because you see, both sides do it. Both sides are corrupt and biased. Millions of dollars in international trips and exclusive all-mail like getaways and historic artifacts of American government. He donated $15 to Joe Biden. If I was Joe Biden, I'd actually be mad because the dude is a judge. He definitely had more money than that. This is what CNN decided to inject into the conversation. Thank you. Thank you. Really fast, I want us to respond to this. I have no real hope that anything will come of this, but hey, who knows? Let's go to this video.
I think this is an emergency. I think that this is a crisis. I think we've had a crisis for some time on the Supreme Court. Congress is out of session for the next week. So that does give Democrats sometimes some time to strategize. And the way I feel about it is that I do think articles need to be introduced. If we decide strategically that the actual author of those articles and who introduces them may not be me, that's fine. I will support impeachment. But I just think that if no one's going to introduce it, I would certainly be open to doing so and drafting them myself. I think this is gone far, far beyond any sort of acceptable standard in any democracy, let alone an American democracy.
AOC, of course, had pushed for Clarence Thomas to be impeached if it turned out that what was in the ProPublica reporting turned out to be true. Yesterday, she said that he should be impeached, and she is sticking with that. I haven't seen any Republicans acknowledge that this is literally even a minor scandal. Like, obviously, they're not going to support him being impeached, although 1/100th of this would be enough to clear literally every Democrat off of the court. They're not even admitting that this is something that's untoward, frowned upon, any of that. According to them, they have no problem. So I kind of doubt that this impeachment effort will be successful, but good on AOC for pushing for it. You can find the rest of that interview at Lever News. David Sirota got a chance to talk with the representative. Brett, what do you think?
There should be a part of the process before the story broke where they report it without names.
Oh, that'd be so good. Oh, why didn't they do that?
You should just say, hey, what if I told you, get your little Morpheus glasses. What if I told you that a Supreme Court justice accepted mega yacht trips from a big time donor? What would that might be something you might be interested in? And just see what they do, just to get them on record. Because every reaction to that question would be gold. Because it would be some version of, I've got to find out who it is. They'll say, I need to find out more. And you can ask, what more do you need to know? Because I'm about to break the story. What more do you need to know? What aspects should I really nail down on when I premiere this, when I drop this story? And what would your position be? And that would really expose the hypocrisy even more.
It's just, I wish we could have it. I so wish that we could have it. That would be so good. I understand why they went in their direction, the professional direction, but yours is way more fun. Anyway, with that said, here's what we're gonna do. I think we're gonna take our second break. When we come back, Joe Biden doing something that he is pitching as a good thing. I have a different approach to it, but anyway, we're gonna give you all that and more after this.
Meow.
Freaking CNN, man. That tweet bothers me. Just as a spoiler, my garbage person is the result of a tweet. And as much as I hate that tweet, I hate the CNN one more. $35. $35. The price of a breakfast
weird
burrito in LA.
The judges, you vote on judges in their partisan. It's so stupid. It's like, you know what kind of a judge you're dealing with anyway.
Anyway, you know what? Impeach them both then. I don't care. Just impeach them both then. Impeach every judge who's ever donated to everyone. Flame on. Okay. Pitchfork's Dragon sent in a super chat saying, I've noticed if I hear the word Tennessee too much, I get Arrested Development stuck in my head. I get it. That's a music reference right there that I sort of get. Thank you. Green says 527 says a super chat. The Nashville Council is meeting Monday to appoint Justin Jones pending the special election when he is likely to be reelected. Yeah, I don't know exactly how the appointment will work, but it does seem like them getting back into office is a pretty good bet. We'll see. We'll see. Crazy. Betty Brancato has a really good idea. I don't know how exactly we'd go about this. This is similar to something I wanted to be done with the creative work of Mini Morpho in the past. Says those posters need to be posters, need to be made in a TYT merch. We needs it. I love the idea of being able to do some sort of collaboration where they're made available and Seth, gets compensated for his amazing work. I don't know if that's something that Seth would be interested. What's that?
Profit participation.
There you go. Whatever the actual adult term is for it, but maybe we can find out what Seth thinks, and if that's actually possible. I don't know. Have we done posters? We've done posters before, right?
We've done posters. I don't know if we've done a. I don't know. I'll look into it.
We'll see. Okay, Jason Ray says, I fear all we have done is to awaken a sleeping giant and fill him with a terrible resolve. Yamamoto, great historic reference there. Says Tennessee GOP. You hear that? Yeah, look. The terrible thing, there's so much that happens that should and probably will inspire young people to continue to flood polling places. They've been doing an amazing job in the last few cycles. But like there's this little bitter aftertaste of, but the Democrats don't, there's so much more they could do to help juice that and to reward that. It'll still probably happen. But I don't know, man. Amazing work being done in so many different areas, not just in direct politics and elections and things like that, but these unionization efforts that we're seeing all over the country too. Okay, let's see. Coos sends in a super chat saying, John, if I name my firstborn something like Monty Chelmsworth, will that ensure they become filthy rich in adulthood? My name sucks. They love their fancy names, their fancy pants names.
My favorite actual name of a legislator might be Saxby Chambliss.
That is
Georgia.
he should be like a saxophone player, I guess.
No, we did that way back in the campaign update days of 2008. Yeah. My buddy and we did a whole cutaway. It was like I was dressed like as one of the fair maidens in a romance novel, and my buddy Mark he's like giant strapping guy. I was like, "Oh, Saxby Chambliss, I have swooned in your arms. How indelicate. Let's run off together and ban abortion." I believe was the line.
That is something. Probably still on the internet, everyone, if you want to search for that. Anyway, over on Twitch, Creative Pixies been here for 10 months. Thank you. Mullen Man 12 for 9 months. Thank you so much. Baxter's Revenge for 8 says sub to the Dragons, but actually sub to John's hair. Goodbye, Bill Pullman. We'll see if Bill Pullman makes a return, either on my head or in another season of The Sinner.
Never again.
Right back.
Our Independence Day.
We were just talking about Bill Pullman in the break, and Brett was not a fan of me continuing to grow my hair out. Brett's mom apparently not a fan of me continuing to grow my hair out, and that was the final straw.
Was it really? Was it really?
No, I'd been thinking about it.
He looks so much better now. My mom, who doesn't chime in on what is done at the network very often at all.
Yeah.
And most I'll ask, and she'll be like, "It was cute. I didn't see it." And then with John, she was like, "What are we doing?"
The thing that was actually the final straw was last weekend when my wife and I we walked to WrestleMania. It was like a mile and a half each way, and your hair just.
Yeah,
you didn't. So the whole time I'm walking, I'm like.
You had like this way that was like, I don't know, like these ham hands when you were trying to get it out of your
I just
face.
hate it. I hate it. Anyway.
Yeah, well, at least you can grow it, buddy. At least you can grow it.
I know. I briefly. I had hair to my shoulders freshman year. Did I look like Jesus? Yes. But this was the second longest my hair has ever been. Second to freshman year.
I look like Jesus, but only because I weighed 128 pounds. And one time freshman year, I know we're not in the break anymore, but one time freshman year, I was like I realized I was like Jesus, and I took my shirt off and just showed people like this. And one room that I saw was like, they were like I had just murdered them. And then I looked back at my RA, it was like, that's Bible study.
Oh my God. They thought the rapture was upon us anyway. Okay, we'll talk more about hair later on. But anyway, we have news to talk about. And it's serious news. So let's get serious and talk about this. The Biden administration has finally weighed in on one aspect of this state level, but still national debate about the transgender community having to do with high school and college athletes. And what they have proposed is being pitched as sort of like tolerant guidance from the national government potentially. It's not exactly how I see it when you dive into the text of it. So here's what they're gonna do. Under the proposed rules, elementary school students would generally be able to participate on school teams consistent with their gender identities. That's sort of the headline version of this. But it would also allow K through 12 schools and universities to limit the participation of transgender students when including them could undermine, quote, fairness in competition or potentially lead to sports-related injuries. It would be up to, in the end, schools to navigate how exactly the restrictions would be applied. The education department advised that schools would have to assess the age of students, the level of competition, as well as the nature of the sport itself. The impact may be different, for example, in track versus badminton. And the US Secretary of Education, Miguel Cardona, says being on a sports team is an important part of the school experience for students of all ages. Every student should be able to have the full experience of attending school in America, including participating in athletics, free from discrimination. And that is a great quote that the rules they just announced do not reflect. We are being told, and I see it in headlines, Biden says they should be allowed to compete, but then says, well, unless the school thinks it's unfair, which is the story that conservatives tell everywhere, regardless of the facts, and you leave it up to them to decide when it's unfair. Now, I understand many of you will say, well, then realistically, isn't this just returning to the status quo? Kind of, which would be bad enough. But now the status quo has the official approval of the Biden administration. If a school, which already bans trans athlete participation, does so under this, they are only doing what they have been told they can and should do by the Democratic president. Am I crazy, Brett? Or is this maybe honestly, I am so sick of Biden taking like 2 weeks off for like extended naps and not even appearing in the national news. But if this is the alternative, go back to sleep.
My official response to this debate is that the Republicans are trying to cut Social Security and Medicare.
I understand that. Yes.
The reason that this is, listen, the reason this is like a hydraulic pump, a hydraulic lift. It is a way for political operatives to make a big, giant move of something that otherwise seems very heavy by putting like the right amount of pressure on a very tiny thing. They're doing something that really only affects like 1% of the population to make everybody mad. Why?
Yeah.
Like, and it comes down to sports are ridiculous. I love them. They are insane. Sports are us like saying we want to find out who's the best at like throwing something. It's ridiculous. And we don't want to, the way it's set up now, we don't want to find out who's the best at throwing something. We want to find out the best of what one kind of person frequently is the best at throwing something. And now we're just, and sometimes it's like, it's all kinds of stuff about your biology. How old is your biology? How much does your biology weigh? We start sectioning things off. It is ridiculous. It is always discriminatory. You're discriminating against heavy wrestlers by putting them in a different division. What the fact is I want to draw a line between what is a fun social activity that should then use social indicators of your gender and what is like a scientific breakdown of what makes people a certain way so that I can scientifically prove who's the best at throwing something. But it all breaks down. It is just like anything. But the reason that people want to talk about the reason that another reason this is popular because everybody just really wants to talk about it. Because no one really knows what to do. And the reason you don't really know what to do is because it's a ridiculous, the sports are silly. And then compound that with, listen, I look at, everyone's been to like an elementary school soccer game. Who knows about soccer? Oh, there's positions here. No, it's a clump of people kicking each other in the shins. And so that's a social activity. People just want to know how to be on teams. We should, in my opinion, we should apply the social gender definitions to that. Go ahead and do it. I think it all should be co-ed at a certain point anyway, because it's about team building and working together. But if you talk to any parent around that field, it is the Olympics. And because of that dynamic, talking too much about it is just giving in to hateful schmucks.
I agree there are a lot of hateful schmucks in this conversation.
It's so fun, isn't it, John?
Yeah.
I get to say like whose side I'm on. When really, and then the place that it most tangibly breaks down is, okay, let's talk about it. Like, all right, so I want to see who's the best female swimmer, which is what everybody's talking about. You're being even more ridiculous when you need to look at people's genitals. Be like, I want to really be, and they're voting to let doctors look at kids' genitals to see if they should be in the pool. So that many times. But then people are like, but my daughter, who has a vajayjay, is trust me, I don't want you to look at their genitals. Okay, fine. My daughter I need her to be in the pool without people with wee-wars because I think this is her path to getting a scholarship, to getting monetary rewards for education. That's not, I don't know why we give like sports scholarships anyway. Yeah. And you can give me the finger, but that's what everybody wants to talk about. And no one's acknowledging how ridiculous the entire conversation is on all sides. And no one understands sports. Some people selectively only understand social dynamics, but pretending this is just like a one easy thing, it just denies so much of reality.
I get that. Look, I do think that one of the reasons some people weigh in is that there are a lot of interesting components of that. I don't doubt any of that, and you have raised many of them. The issue is that while many people do want to talk about that, I have another block that I also want to talk about with the limited amount of minutes that we have remaining this hour. So I like most of what you said. I don't like Biden's position, especially because he'd indicated during the presidency that he would not provide this sort of like, official like approval of this sort of process. I think that a lot of trans people are going to see this as a massive betrayal. But anyway, Brett, you're the best. You know who's not the best? We're going to turn to him now, actually. Just days after the judge in Donald Trump's hush money case warned him about the sort of rhetoric that he is known to make when he's under pressure that can lead to people doing and saying crazy things, can lead to death threats and those sorts of things. Trump has perhaps not reached the lows that he has at other points of this process, but his rhetoric is going to some weird places, including him bleeding, "As much as I can enjoy a day like Tuesday where the radical left lunatics, maniacs, and perverts had me indicted and arrested for blah, blah, blah." So I just want to read that part to remind you that he is now referring to, I don't know, was it the cop that let the door hit you in the face? Was it Alvin Bragg? Was it Judge Martian? Which one is the pervert in this particular case? But anyway, there's a lot of incendiary rhetoric out there, and it looks like it's having an effect. They apparently have now received, we could jump ahead to graphic 3. There have been dozens of threats directed just individually at the judge already. This was a couple of days ago that he was brought in. They've received dozens of threats. His family has also received threats. And I will remind you that Donald Trump was talking about the family, the wife and the daughter at his speech at Mar-a-Lago. Don Jr. posted a photo. Breitbart, of course, was spreading information about the family. It was to produce these threats, and oh, what do you know? The threats have come. Now, also a reminder, by the way, of how dangerous these can get. Last month, Alvin Bragg, who is receiving new death threats, received a letter containing a death threat and white powder with the very nuanced and reasonable message of, "Alvin, I am going to kill you." It doesn't seem like the white powder was actually, I guess I'm gonna say it was supposed to be anthrax, but there is a lot of Republican attention on this topic, a lot of demonization of Alvin Bragg and the judge and his family already going on. So far, it's just been threats, but is there someone somewhere trying to plan something? I hope that the security in the area are not just expecting this is all gonna be fine. Brett, what do you think?
I think it's not nice to threaten the death of a judge. I think that's weird, and I think it's hilarious that the people on the right will pick someone, will single out one person and say that they're perverts for whatever reason. Yeah. And then completely ignore the fact that there are death threats being levied against all kinds of people, not just Alvin Bragg, but like the right is literally issued death threats against the Bud Light Clydesdales.
The horses?
Yeah.
Don't let Kid Rock get within a country mile of those horses. Anyway, we're gonna keep you apprised of what's going on in this story. That is unfortunately all the time we have for the first hour of our show, though. Thank you everyone who's been listening and watching. There's more to come in the aftermath, including the throwing away of the garbage people of the week, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone, to the Aftermath. I'm John Iadarola. That is Brett Erlich. Brett, how are you doing?
I'm fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it too. Anyway, okay. So everyone, we've got more news to get to. Definitely, if you have not yet voted for the Community Garbage Person of the Week, you have mere moments still to do so. Let's see how high we can get that number. First, though, I'm going to read a couple of your comments. Tweets, super chats, all that stuff. Let's see. Matta Songbird says in the members' comments, I am a resident of Knoxville and Gloria Johnson is my representative. I hate Tennessee continues to be in the news for the worst reasons imaginable. But the bright side of this particular situation is that the rest of the country can see with their own eyes just how many great progressive folks live here and that we aren't all hateful people in favor of regressive policies. I love that comment. I've spent a little bit of time in Tennessee recently, specifically in Knoxville, actually. And one of my favorite people who is progressive lives there, so I certainly agree. Okay, let's see. Sean Breen, welcome to Tier 1 membership. Glad to have you here. Two-Headed Dragon, Tier 3 member for 19 months says supercuts or sport clips. Shut up. Anyway.
Look at his little sexy strand, everybody. Look at that. Look at that little sexy strand. No, leave it.
My thing is falling apart.
You got a sexy strand, my friends.
Brandy Lou 2 gifted 5 subs. Thank you for that, Brandy Lou 2. You're nice. Asimov's Profits video for 24 months on Twitch says, so where is the DNC and why aren't they holding rallies in Tennessee? Also, happy birthday, John. You look, they still could. Again, it would have been great if, like they never look for opportunities to shed light. Again, this would be shedding light on an actual authoritarian move. It would require no exaggeration. Just actually make sure that people are focused on it. Send Schumer, send Pelosi or whatever if you want to. Anyway, Shadow Wolf, thank you, 25 months on Twitch. Okay, with that said, let's jump into some tech news. I know everyone comes to our channel for tech news, so we're gonna talk about it. According to a new report, Tesla has another problem on its hands, and that is that employees have apparently for a number of years shared private and often, quote, highly invasive personal videos that the cameras in their cars captured to different people at the company between 2019 and 2022. They apparently were using internal messaging systems to share photos and videos. And what's interesting about that is that Tesla is very specific about how safe you are from privacy concerns around the number of cameras in the car. They say on their website that to protect your privacy, images and video from the cabin camera do not leave the vehicle itself and are not transmitted to anyone, including us, unless you enable data sharing. Cabin camera features are processed directly on the vehicle itself. Image and video data from the cabin camera only leaves your vehicle if data sharing is enabled and a safety event occurs. Otherwise, this data is not saved to onboard memory and is not transmitted to anyone, again, including us. In a different section of the website, they say they're equipped with a camera suite designed from the ground to protect your privacy. Camera recordings remain anonymous and are not linked to you or your vehicle. And it turns out, no, that's not true, I guess, at all, because ex-employees are claiming that workers even came across, we'll get to Elon Musk, he pops up in one of these, but they had a video of a man approaching a vehicle completely naked. They had videos of crashes and road rage incidents. One crash video from 2021 showed a Tesla driving at high speed in a residential area, including hitting a child that was riding a bike. The child flew in one direction, the bike in another. Apparently employees thought that was, I don't know, funny, exciting, whatever. They were sharing it, although again, they're not supposed to have access to any of this. They even got video from inside of apparently Elon Musk's garage because they discovered that he had bought the Lotus Esprit from the Spy Who Loved Me. Esprit? I don't have fancy cars, I don't know. And I don't go to fancy places.
You obviously haven't seen Pretty Woman either, idiot.
I actually have never seen Pretty Woman.
That's Lotus Esprit. Continue, sorry.
I haven't seen it. But anyway, he apparently bought it because again, remember, as cringy as Elon Musk is, he's even more wealthy. So he was able to buy that car. So they were seeing inside people's garages, inside their private property. They were taking these videos and then sharing them. That was, according to these ex-employees, just a big part of the community culture, trying to prove how funny you could be by spreading these things. And I wonder how you would end up with a corporate culture of desperately trying to be funny at all costs. I don't know, Brett, what do you think?
This holds with many of the SpaceX and Tesla employees I've actually met. It's so ridiculous. It's exactly what you think. It's exactly what you suspect every time you're like, you say something around the house in front of your personal assistant who shall not be named, like the Hey Google equivalent for Amazon. And then suddenly on your Amazon advertisements, it's what you were talking about. These same people, especially, it's so funny with Elon Musk for the reason I'm sure you're talking about it. This guy basically said, don't trust any tech companies. And he's got Taibbi, his little doggy with the Twitter file saying, don't trust the tech companies, they're always lying to you. And then he turns around and says, except for mine. And then it's basically a countdown until the former employees, who are the very folks who are like, no, at all costs, the kind of douchey funniness I can unleash onto the world, so I shall, especially if you fire me or I move on to another job. Before that comes back to bite him in the butt.
Yeah,
it totally makes sense. It's what everybody suspects, and when you see it in print like this, you've got to say yes, that's true. Unless you're like an Elon stan who believes everything he says, no matter what, and he can do no wrong.
Yeah, and I have no doubt that to the extent that the Elon stans will even see this story, they'll be like, yeah, no, that is funny. It's fine. It could be me. You could take a video of me. I don't even care. Again, like just all of the constant lying, like lying is just that is an official part of Tesla corporate culture. And I don't mean just like lying about like the work environment, the racism that's been alleged. Just Elon Musk blatantly lying to his customers and potential customers over and over and over and over and over again, year after year, about basically everything having to do with the cars. I'm not saying that the cars are the worst cars around or anything. I'm just saying that they never measure up to the massive promises that he says about them. Anyway, you know what? I don't think we're gonna have time for the second part of it. I will just say that the every iteration of the blue check fiasco from the beginning of all of this has been more ridiculous than the last. And he has proven over and over and over again that, God damn, his business instincts suck. With that said, in a moment, we're gonna turn to a little bit of fun before we throw away some garbage. I wanna thank Shadow Wolf for being here for 25 months on Twitch. Says 25 months on a trashy Friday with John and Brett is the best time to celebrate. Hope everybody has a great weekend. I hope that they do. Brett, do you have any fun plans for the weekend?
I don't know. Wife threatened to go to Vegas, so we'll see if we're actually doing that today.
So what are you gonna do?
Genuinely don't know.
Anyway, that actually does sound fun. I've actually been kind of itching to go to Vegas. It's been years now, I guess.
Get that itching checked out.
Yeah, no, it's really annoying, actually.
You're gonna get more itching when you come back from
antibiotic
Vegas.
resistant. That's true. Whiskey Eye has been here for 30 months on Twitch, says, still love you guys. We have had so much lawlessness from the highest leaders in Congress to the White House. It's no wonder the highest court in our land apparently has the lowest ethical standards. Yes. Yeah, in hindsight, probably. Thank you. Okay, with that said, why don't we jump to our last regular story, starting with this.
Woke M&Ms have returned. The whole place, it was like wokeified.
You can't have a moment of just fun without an agenda.
I really thought that the big fake fury of the week was going to be the whole Bud Light boycott that appears to involve buying more Bud Light than you ever have before so you can destroy it with high caliber machine guns. But I guess they're getting bored with that because Fox is on to something else. It's again having to do with the Little Mermaid. Take a look at this.
And the Little Mermaid used to sing up where they walk, up where they run. Now she might sing up where they woke. Turns out Ariel is highly offensive, so the lyrics in the Disney classic are being rewritten.
Okay, I don't know who that guy was. Up where they woke? Come on, man. I don't want to like derail our segment because we're going to talk about what is actually at stake here, but that's terrible. They have like a full staff. Like he's in a room with like expensive equipment and there's a bunch of people whose career involves having him have a camera on his face as he says, yeah, well, what about up where they woke? That's the worst I think I've seen from Fox News in some time, Brett. What do you think?
Up where they woke, up where they stunned, up where they ask for permission from silent women before they just start making out with them, which is what this story is about, John.
That's what it's actually about. So what they're referring to there is that Alan Menken, who wrote the original music, has decided to change his own lyrics, which I guess he's not allowed to do. And he has changed the lyrics to 2 songs. One of them does have involve "Kiss the Girl." The original lyrics, you can bring up the change in the lyrics here. Look, a lot of people I think are gonna think that this is not necessary. And again, I would say it's up to Disney, I suppose. It's up to Alan Menken. The original lyrics of the song do sort of imply that you should just go in for a kiss, sort of a la Billy Bush, Donald Trump. They've decided to change it to make consent a more explicit part of it. They're also changing one of the songs that Ursula sings, and a lot of people have an issue with that because Ursula is implying that women should talk less and they'll be more successful in getting a man. But she's also the villain of the movie. So arguably, we're not supposed to like her commentary. Her commentary maybe is supposed to be toxic and self-destructive. But anyway, Disney and Alan Menken, who made the original movie, who wrote the original lyrics, have decided to update it, and Fox has an issue with it. Brett, what are your thoughts?
They want Ursula to win, by the way. They want the evil queen. The right wing thinks that all the bad guys in all of these Disney movies are the good guys. Scar, he runs a legion of Nazi hyenas, good guy. That's what they want. So I'm not going to take their advice on this subject at all whatsoever. Let's just talk about all right, I can prove undeniably that Fox News would be for changing the words to old-timey things, to update them, to make them wokeified, or at least just not terrible in every way. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo was not always catching tigers. They will change that. They have changed the lyrics because the words of that are hateful, and they understand that you do have to update things because what you tell children to say on the play yard, you can't have a hateful, horrible messaging. There's always a moral to these stories. And if you look back at this idea of Little Mermaid, they want to protect the sanctity of what? A story about banging a fish who just turned 16 based on just the fact that she can sing and can't talk.
Yeah.
Because she's pretty and has a good singing voice. That is the moral of a Little Mermaid. I feel like if we can't update it, We should update it. But if we're going to decide whether to update it or not, why should we listen to the people at Fox News instead of the person who wrote that lyric in the first place?
100%. By the way, didn't they update for the original movie her age to 16 from even younger?
It's fish years, right, John. You don't know.
The right wing wants to come out and say they should go back to her being 13 or something. Okay, feel free. I mean, it at least would be consistent with a lot of Matt Walsh's commentary earlier in his career. Anyway, that's all the time we have for that because we do have a chore to do, Brett Erlich. We're gonna move to that in just one sec. First, though, I wanted to thank April Blaine for becoming a tier 1 member, Ben de Guzman as well. Thank you. And Spur Marks says in a super chat, really appreciate your take on all the chaos. Thank you. I don't know specifically what that's a reference to. There's been a lot of chaos, but I do appreciate you being here. Smash as well, Penny Rudder, thank you so much. Says been a member since before John went to the Arctic. A lot of people watching probably don't even know what that's a reference to, but thank you for being here. Okay, are we ready to go? We're good to go? Thank you. It's the end of the week, and so it's time to take out the trash. Brett, who is your garbage person of the week?
One of my favorites, one of my favorite garbage people is Michael Knowles, who is just a really great actor. And Michael Knowles, everybody's going after Bud Light for at least doing something nice for 5 seconds for a trans person. But did you know that Jack Daniels has a cinnamon flavored whiskey that was inclusive of drag queens? Michael Knowles does. And here's his super duper awesome take.
I don't have a huge problem. I have a huge problem with Bud Light. I have less of a huge problem with this because it's not that Jack is advertising their regular Jack Daniels here. It's not good old number 7, okay? It's not that Jack is advertising their Gentleman Jack, their higher end whiskey. You saw the specific product that they are advertising here is Jack Fire. It's their ripoff of Fireball cinnamon flavored whiskey. And 100% of the people who drink Jack Fire are at least homosexuals. At least. They might be trans, they might be drag queens, it's not a heterosexual beverage.
Take my own personal experience. When I drink alcohol, I'm wildly attracted to men, Michael Knowles. Like, Michael Knowles is that guy who doesn't get as much airtime as the Matt Walsh's of the world. So who knew that those guys would be threatened by Matt Walsh to the point where they would just go, literally. Here's another quote that's my favorite from him. It's so bad. He goes, hang on, let me find it. I don't think women really drink it. I think if women are gonna take a shot of one of those through these frou-frou cinnamon things, they'll probably just drink Fireball. Jack has more of a bite to it. It's more of a man's drink, albeit a man who's a bit light in his Lynchburg loafers. Lynchburg is in Tennessee where they make Jack Daniels. Okay. He's saying words like light in your loafers. Like, what year is it, dude?
I know. It's like you're supposed to pretend that you're 90.
That's who he's
because
for.
You're appealing to 90-year-olds.
But that's who they're for, man. They're for like D-bag, like finance bros, and they're for 95-year-old Republican voters who are like, see, the youth are on my side.
Yeah. Well, and the occasional rare like freshman in college conservative who has 45-year-old energy. Like that's who it's intended to appeal to. It's more of a man's. It's women drink whiskey. Like, dude, I know that like they're so uncertain in their masculinity that they constantly look for totems as shortcuts to it. So like if I wear this hat, if I smoke this cigar, if I drink this drink, then I'm good, right? Then I don't have to be afraid anymore. It's cinnamon whiskey. What is supposed to be LGBTQ about cinnamon? How does adding that? It is exhausting to be this constantly afraid of what everyone thinks about you and every choice you make, everything you say. Just take some time off, man. Go to a therapist.
You know how non-masculine, how non-masculine, conventionally speaking, it is to be like bothered by this stuff.
I know, 100%. Okay, we need to turn to mine. Mine is actually somewhat similar this particular week. My garbage person of the week is going to be Charlie Kirk for a tweet that he sent out. And the tweet says, "What happened to white actors in commercials? They've completely disappeared unless they're portraying ridiculous caricatures of whiteness or incompetence." So the reason that this is garbage is multifaceted. Think about how much millionaire and billionaire money has to be pumped into these mediocre guys' careers to make it seem acceptable to just tweet, "What happened to white actors in commercials?" Normally, you would have had to be inconvenienced and grossed out by the weird old racist next to you at the bar saying, "Whatever happened to white people in commercials?" And you'd be like, dude, I'm not here for you. And now they can just do it on Twitter and get thousands of retweets or whatever. It has, as we'll turn to, drunk uncle energy. That is what it is. One of my favorite characters from SNL. It's just crazy old racist guy saying racist things. He knows his audience desperately wants to see the racism, and so he just racks his mind. I guess there's no white people in commercials, and I know many of you will have a hard time following this because what are you talking about? There are no white people in commercials. I understand that pointing out the truth won't change any of their minds. They already agree with him, by the way. This guy says my 10-year-old son pointed that out to me 6 months ago. Look, think about the fatherhood being presented there. Another says we have all noticed, and point out that that person, of course, has the blue check, giving $8 to Elon Musk. There was a report. They found that 73% of actors appearing in video ad creative in 2022 were white. That was 7 points higher than 2 years previous. There are 3 out of 4 actors in commercials. It's going up. By the way, they're disproportionately male as well. So, and again, he doesn't care. This isn't about an accurate reflection of reality. This is needing to feed the daily allowance of racism to his audience. What do you think?
So if it is the case that an actor in a commercial is someone who is paid to say, a messaging campaign, to be part of a messaging campaign to a select demographic, Charlie, you're an actor. If it is the case that Tucker Carlson's defense against people attacking him is that actually I'm just getting paid to say entertaining messages that seem to have some kind of messaging behind him. Tucker Carlson is an actor. He's definitely not saying what he actually believes, because when you find that kind of stuff is a result of a document dump during a lawsuit, behind the scenes, if he's choosing his words, he's choosing a whole different thing to say.
Yeah.
Y'all are actors trying to get a key demographic. So don't tell me by any means that there are no white actors. That's all my Twitter feed's full of.
100%. They're just actors. By the way, I like this comment from Zachary Booth, who responded to him saying, "Good news for you. Bud Light just launched a promotion with a famous white woman." And that definitely ruined his day. Anyway, those are our garbage people. I wish I could give a Blue Apron gift card to that person. Anyway, those are our garbage people. 52,000 of you, as of when we took the screenshot at least, voted for the community garbage person of the week. And here are your top 5. Starting at number 5 with 4% of the vote, you have Kid Rock for shooting Bud Light because of their trans campaign. I thought that would get more points. He worked so hard to be that cringy. Coming in number 4 with 7% of the vote is Leslie Stahl for a softball interview with Marjorie Greene. Number 3 with 11% of the vote, you have Lindsey Graham for begging people to donate to Trump. That was a highlight of the week. Coming in at number 2, people, with 32% of the vote, you have the Tennessee GOP for trying to expel the Democrats who protested gun reform. I guess in the end, they did do it. Maybe it would have more. A lot of these votes were already locked in. Number 1, beating out the Tennessee GOP with 47% of the vote, and your community garbage person of the week, Don Jr., for posting a picture of the arraignment judge's family. I agree that was bad, but I want to change. Can we get Mike Pence to stop the certification of this and make sure that the Tennessee GOP wins? Anyway,
they understand the garbage people is just like you stinky person.
I get it. The tweet of Charlie Kirk wasn't the worst thing that happened this week. So you're right. Thank you to the 52,000 of you voted. And thank you, Brett, for joining me on the show. It was great to have you here.
Great to be here, John. No Game Busters tonight, so have a nice time. But join the Discord because I was playing games over there. TYT's Discord is awesome and
that was fun. And thank you everyone for watching. I'm gonna be joined by A.B. Burns Tucker and Michael Shore in the first hour of the Young Turks a little bit later on. So definitely hope to see you there. Indisputable's up next, full suite of amazing TYT content. So buckle up, buckle in. And for now though, stay safe out there, stay sane out there. I'll see you soon.